Welcome to Democratic Television, a program of the Santa Clara County Democratic Party that brings insights, perspectives, and attitudes of our always thoughtful Democratic guests. Today we're joined by State Senator Bob Wieckowski. Bob, thanks for being on Democratic Television.
Well, thanks for having me, Steve.
So you have been in the Assembly for a long time. Now you're a senator. Your district has doubled. Describe the district generally. What does it encompass?
Well, it hugs the bay and the East Bay. It goes from Santa Clara, Milpitas, all the way up the Fremont Tri-City areas to Hayward and San Leandro. So, you know, it's larger than the congressional district.
Wow. Okay.
Right.
Well, you are probably busy and on the constituents' agenda to check out what they're up to on a regular basis.
Well, yes, and there's, you know, having two counties that are involved.
Yeah.
Santa Clara is an active county. The city of Santa Clara, Milpitas, the Democratic Party, same with Alameda County. There's not a sleepy area. Everybody wants to know what you're up to and appearances and things like that.
Well, I'm glad you're up to it.
Well, I come from a hardworking family. My background is, you know, my parents are middle class, still living in Fremont now. In fact, I live in back of my parents. I bought a house 15 years ago, so we took down, you know, typical suburban makeup. I took down the fence, and we have, you know, I get to go walk over and see my mom and my dad whenever.
Excellent. Well, let's talk a little bit about, you know, where'd you grow up? Where are you from?
Well, grew up in Fremont.
Oh.
I'm San Francisco native. I was born at St. Mary's, I've come from 5 sisters and a brother. So 4 of us were born in St. Mary's, 1 at St. Luke's, and then 2 in Fremont. And my parents bought a house, tract home on Stevenson Boulevard. And like I said, I bought a house in back of them. So Sue, who I'm getting married later on this summer, and Sue's sister lives 3 houses down. So I'm somewhat old-fashioned.
Yeah, it sounds like small town America.
Well, it's family's important to me. You know, I'm a Polish American, and I was lucky enough after graduating from law school at Santa Clara. I spent 2 years in Poland, and I got to meet some great uncles and great aunts, learned the language. I was living in Krakow, learning the language, and got to see how folks in the communist country were living and how important that relationship with family and how people depended on each other. And several cousins would build, they call it Legislacki, which is a twin, and they would have these duplexes where one sister would live on one side and one on the other, and that interaction, even though my Polish wasn't so great, was I learned some things from that.
Wow. So tell me a little bit about growing up in Fremont. Did you have any role models you thought, I'm going to be just like that person, and that's going to inform me on how to become a state senator? Or
no, I mean,
what ambitions?
No, I mean, my parents were pretty much apolitics. I remember the next door neighbor in '64 had a big Barry Goldwater sign in an LBJ, Alameda County, and after Goldwater lost, he sold the house and moved up to the just had a nervous breakdown or something like that. I think I was probably like all other kids. You know, I remember when John F. Kennedy died, and you know, there's a, you know, as a Catholic growing up in Fremont, having a Catholic president, I think everybody looks for those connections. But I wouldn't say I had like one teacher or one little league coach or, you know, normal relationship with my father. You know, he shared me with 7 siblings, right? So there wasn't that one person that stuck out in my childhood. I think I was a pretty normal kid in the '60s, doing well in school, trying to do a variety of activities, and just working hard to get ready to go to college.
And so you went to college and decided to go to law school.
Right. Well, there was a little break in between. I was in college during the 70s, so I was a little bit young for the draft, but Vietnam War was going on. We had impeachment and Watergate with Richard Nixon. There was a lot of turmoil. A lot of people were sort of checking out and saying, I don't want to have anything to do with government. And I did an internship when I graduated from Cal. I went to Washington, D.C. for a couple of months, I thought, to work for Don Edwards, who was the congressman from this area. And this is 1977, so Jimmy Carter was president. It was the beginning of his administration, and one thing led to another. Mr. Edwards hired me on, and I spent 5 years working for him. So, one wants to think that they take the advantage of the situation or job opportunities, and sometimes I forget all the wonderful things that went one after another. But then after that, I decided to come back home and go to Santa Clara Law School. So I guess if I was going to pick somebody who was a role model now as a California state senator, I think Mr. Edwards would be that role model, where he was hardworking. He always taught me to be polite with people, listen to their point of view, but then go ahead and do what needs to be done, what you think is the best public policy for your state, for your region, for the nation.
Oh, great. That's a great story. So you graduated from law school, became an attorney in Fremont?
Yes. Again, I was the little break there. That's when I finished law school, and probably a lot of people thought this was career suicide, as I went to Poland and went to the language school in Krakow. And this was in the 80s, so this was still communist Poland.
Oh, yeah.
So folks were saying, what are you doing in communist Poland? And I remember a story when at the time, this is before the internet, I got a telegram from a friend that said that I had passed the bar. So I was going to be an attorney, and it would just say, congratulations, counselor, because you pay by every letter, right, in the old telegrams back in the 80s. So there was a celebration that night. There was the Poles, they don't celebrate your birthday. They celebrate your name day, which saint you're named out of.
Okay.
And that particular day was Andrew, which is Anjeki, which is a big sort of a Halloween / April Fool's Day. So it was a big, and the Americans, we would host, at the school that I was at, they would host Anjeki Ball. So people would dress up in a tie, and college students. So I was buying bottles of champagne for folks. But then I came back and decided to be a bankruptcy attorney, work for a bankruptcy firm, because there are, it's again in that idea of how can I help the weakest in our community that are faced with possible loss of their house, disruption of their job, they're weighed down with debt, and give them a fresh start. That's sort of the goal there, is give them back some dignity that they had, and streamline or give them a little consulting on financial stability.
Mm-hmm. And at some point you got an interest in running for office, and you ran for the Fremont City Council?
Right. I got recruited by folks that, there's how many people have 5 years of Washington, D.C. experience? They're an attorney, and they're just sort of hanging around. People in the Democratic Party seek you out, and there was a conflict in Fremont in '98 about affordable housing, and the advocates really wanted to, and as they do now, want to do more for affordable housing, and they felt that the city council had turned down a big project, so they wanted to have somebody that would do that. And I interviewed with folks. I mean, there was probably 15 or people interviewing a group of 8, and they chose me, and I said, lucky, right? So that got me back in, I guess, the personal political arena.
So you ran, you won, and apparently you liked it.
Yeah, well, actually, I ran, I lost. I ran, I lost, and then I ran a third time. I didn't get elected until 2004, so I served on the Planning Commission and the Recreation Commission. And a lot of people don't like to talk about the setbacks that they have, and life is full of setbacks.
Sure.
So one learns from losing. If I talk to young candidates now that get in, and a lot of them are one and out, and you really want to say, we're in here for the long run. If we have democratic values, we're trying to help those less fortunate with us. You know, California, we go through a budget, and it's supposed to be reflective of our values, right? And you look at that and you say, okay, how am I going to change the status quo? If I take a punch and I don't make it, refine your message, talk about what is important to you, and that's what I had to do.
But you also recalibrated yourself within the community and said, okay, maybe I need to step back, run for planning or you know, the other commissions that you talked about, gain a little more experience and maybe public trust.
Right, and you know, we all think that we're well known in the community. Again, what do you want to bring to the political discussion? Today, I still think that the best thing that I deliver is my work ethic and how hard I work at different issues and the ability to tackle something difficult. So when I was on the Planning Commission in Fremont, what's that cliche? I came ready to play, you know, ready to dance every other Thursday. Is you read the material, you visit the site, you develop an expertise because you're just the questions that you're asking. People understand that you understand the conflict or whatever it would be. Wherever you end up, that's different. But do I understand? And I've done my homework.
Right. Are you being respectful of the process and the position, and there's a reason why you're doing it?
Oh, it's extremely important for me now, the institution of the California legislature. I mean, we are the co-equal branch of government. I know Jerry Brown gets a lot of ooh la la, and everybody says, oh, the governor wins on his budget or he does certain things. I mean, I'm sitting now as the chair of environmental quality in the state Senate, which has all CEQA reform, all these changes for our targets for greenhouse gas reduction, and my specialty, climate adaptation and resiliency in the community. And the day that the governor announced his new executive policy for climate adaptation and resiliency, we had 15 bills. I had a committee hearing. It was that whole day where we dealt with our new targets for 2050, the adaptation policy and all that. So he took all the oxygen out of the hearings. Our hearing started at 9:30. By 9 o'clock, his press conference was done, and all the press and newspapers were reporting the next day about his announcement.
Wow.
And that's okay, because it's that hard work in the long run. Those are the things that will change our statutes and change what California policy is, and we represent the people.
Yeah. We're going to take a little break. When we come back, I'd like to talk to you about, you know, your agenda in the state Senate and where we're going.
Beautiful.
We'll be right back.
Hi, my name's Dave Cortese. I'm the president of the Santa Clara County Board of Supervisors. A lot of people come to me day in and day out asking, how can I get involved? How can I make a difference in my community? Well, one of the things you can do is contact the local Democratic Party. As a lifelong Democrat, I know that that's one of the most inspiring and useful things you can do to help people, especially people who can't stand up for themselves. If you'd like to do that, there's a couple of ways to contact them. You can use their phone number, 408-445-9500, or go to the Democratic Party website, www.sccdp.org. If you want to make a difference, there's probably no better way than contacting our local Democratic Party. Thank you.
Welcome back to Democratic Television and our guest, State Senator Bob Wieckowski. Bob, when we took a break, you had just talked about, you know, sort of the passion you had for being on the city council. Something motivated you to take a step up to partisan office, to the state assembly.
Right, and there's some challenges and questions that people have because, you know, as a city council member, you're really a land use manager. You make land use decisions.
That's what a lot of the
a lot of the work is there. And in the state, in the assembly, you know, you're making policy, and it's a different skill set. It's a different way of looking at how you spend your day. So I did the research. I mean, I looked at the cities. This is Castro at the time. It was Union City, Fremont, Castro Valley, Milpitas to see which elected officials and folks were interested in running, and really there wasn't anybody that you would think of on that first tier of elected officials. Ultimately, Garrett Yee ran from the Ohlone School Board, but so put together a campaign and came out on top. It was a tough race for me. I think coming from Fremont, having representing about half of the district, because Fremont's got 250,000,
yeah.
But it's a different messaging, a different. You can be the hometown boy, but you have to say it outside your hometown. I mean, I
Right.
had to, now when I was running for the Senate, I was talking to people in Santa Clara who felt that they didn't have a state senator because of redistricting, and all of a sudden this guy from Fremont, who's this guy from Fremont that's representing them? And I had, you have to work with your staff. I have a wonderful staff that is out in the community and bring to me problems. At the time, Santa Clara was challenged with, like all the other cities, with the folding of redevelopment. They had the library in Santa Clara that they said we need a champion to jailbreak this from the redevelopment and finance trap. And then obviously we have the former redevelopment property that the school district wanted to buy at Agnew's. And that was
facility.
Right, and that was a Santa Clara school district in the city. So I worked with them. So it's task oriented, and you build a reputation off of that, I guess.
Well, and I think you do have a reputation for being hardworking, diligent, intense at times, and having a great staff.
Oh yeah,
It really does represent you well.
Right, they work hard. When I first got elected to the assembly, I sat down with Speaker John Perez, and everybody's scrambling. I want to be this. I want this position, and I grew up in the East Bay, so the Oakland Raiders had a big effect on me when I was playing high school football. And I said to John, I said, Speaker Perez, I want to be. You find where I fit into your team. I said, I'm not going to be the quarterback, or I'm not telling you I'm the center. I want to be, if I have to carry water for somebody, because that makes the Democratic Party and our caucus strong, that's what I'll do. If you want me to be the quarterback or the center, I'll do whatever you want to do. And then he named me for the environmental safety and toxic material, which at the time was a high committee assignment for an incoming freshman. So then I went to work. The first thing I did with my staff at the time and with the committee staff is to say, what needs to be done? I don't feel like, Lenin says, what do we have to do? But I said, there's unfinished business. Sure, I have an agenda, but let's look at the body of work that you've done and that hasn't been completed, and what do we need to do, and how do we make the Democratic Party in the state of California stronger?
Cool.
Yeah.
So I guess, to make a long story short, you were in the assembly, you served in a number of capacities, got legislation passed, and then decided to run for the state Senate in an open seat. Right.
I mean, it was, at the time when the Democrats used to draw districts, they were nested together. 2 assembly seats were nested together, not quite so nowadays. And I thought that my work ethic and the things I was concerned about with, at that time I was chair of the Judiciary Committee. I was really worried about the court funding, how, besides we get through the budget challenges, is how we start rebuilding the institutions that we have. And at a very basic level, some people will never be able to take care of themselves, whether they're developmentally disabled, they're ignorant, they're whatever the problem is, and what's the role of the state? What's the proper role of the state? And we continue to have that discussion. So the Senate was a big challenge for me, but I am interested in that next step, because in the Senate, I've been named by Pro Tem De Leon to be on it's like the National League for state legislators, and I'm going to be going to Vail in July, I guess, coming up, to talk about on the environment and energy arena. And I'm going to be talking about climate adaptation and resiliency for all the state legislators. So it's a role not only as a leader in California, but a leader for the state. And we're working on the road to Paris. I'm in the queue of being one of the group of the senators that are going to the Paris UN conference on climate change to try to get a world deal. And people are following California. We've done a wonderful job. The Santa Clara County has done a wonderful job of having clean jobs, being economically successful, and converting from our carbon-based economy to an alternative economy. And people, they know the science. There's going to be some science there, but they don't know how the public policy works. And, I feel that responsibility. I've been given that responsibility to be a leader for one of the states in California, but people are looking at California of how do other countries do that, and can we get a UN compact together?
Pretty important stuff.
Well, and I didn't ask for it. I just said, this is the work that needs to be done. And, I looked at, we talk about climate adaptation, and I have a bill that's in the Assembly right now of trying to when we make decisions, we're all worried about infrastructure and what happens with sea level rise, but what happens with these, extreme storms? And we need to embed the resiliency philosophy into every project that comes on. So if we decide that we're going to rebuild or improve 237 or 101, 101 is, if you look at the maps, it's going to be inundated with water.
Yeah.
So what does that look like? That's a whole bunch of dough, but when we do the repairs, we make land use decisions, local governments, how is the resiliency and adaptation template reviewed? And as I find it, my job, and that's the legislation, is to give people the technical support and politically the backdrop, because it's going to be wildly unpopular and expensive when they have to make these decisions on changing the infrastructure that
Right.
we live in.
And you're coming from limited resources, so it's a zero-sum game in a way.
Right. We're going into special session in the Senate in the coming months on transportation and infrastructure. And again, my little nugget of the contribution is to make sure that we have language in there on this resiliency and adaptation policy, so that everybody starts thinking about it. It's Caltrans, it's the regional ABAG, MTC. They have policy and they have initiatives. It's tying it all together in state policy and saying, you will spend money and we're going to help you with money, and this is what it's going to look like. So it's a big responsibility, but I got good staff, and I think it's what the public and what the world needs. And when you're motivated by such things, and you're saying, we need to get there, it's uncomfortable, it's maybe unpleasant for people to talk about this because it's so expensive, but we have to build for our kids and for the next generation.
So what are the priorities do you have? What else are you working on?
Well, I have a packet of 3 bills, which I'm calling my Income Equality and Financial Stability Act. And they're in the Assembly Judiciary, again, what I chaired last year. And as Democrats, we're always trying to, we're interested in raising the minimum wage. Mm-hmm. Right. We're also interested in helping out the work programs, CalWorks, to try to help out those less fortunate. These bills deal with people who are working but are faced with wage garnishment. The wage garnishment, you owe somebody some money. The wage garnishment laws now say that they can take 25% of your wages. Well, we have a lot of stuff that we pay now that we didn't pay during the Korean War. We got the Comcast, we got our telephones that we pay for. We have a lot of bills and people who are on modest income, people making $20 an hour, $30,000 a year. $25 of their take-home pay is a lot, so this will shave that down to 10%. So you still owe the money, they'd still garnish your wages, but they take less. The bankruptcy exemption schedule when somebody, somebody's going to have their house sold in a judicial foreclosure. Again, this is something that I've been working on for 28 years as a lawyer. But for a single person in Santa Clara County, if your house is threatened with a judicial foreclosure, I mean, we went through the recession with the non-judicial foreclosures, where if you go to court, they can sell your house with as little as $75,000 worth of equity, which is normally, as policy, we don't want people to lose their homes in the courtroom. So we're going to raise the exemption schedule up, do some other tinkering, but it's letting people keep a little bit more of what they have and have the creditors get paid, but over a longer period of time. So because we understand that people who have paychecks, and they will spend all that money back in the community, and you hear that, and I'm trying to convince my colleagues that especially when you have an attachment to your wages, you need to plow that money, give that money so they can pay their rent, put gas in their car. Nobody's going on vacation; they're just surviving.
Yeah. We have about 2 minutes left. If someone wants to get hold of you, we'll be flashing your website on the screen now. Comments, phone calls, are those?
Oh yeah,
I mean, Wieckowski office. Sure,
we have an office in Fremont, and we have informal office hours in San Jose and Santa Clara on a monthly basis. But it's I talk about Team Wieckowski, and I've explained a little bit about my role as a state legislature. But I feel it the same way with my staff and with the community that I represent. It's a two-part, a communication. I need to know from the elected officials, but also from everyday Jane and Joe on what concerns them. I mean, people are concerned about the drought. People are concerned about how is that going to affect us? I mean, I have a piece of legislation that's going to create a water tax for excessive users. Now, that could be very unpopular if you're an excessive user, and that's defined by the local government. So we need to hear back from folks. And again, this is a large district. I mean, state senate is 950,000 people. So if we have our Facebook and we have our senate site, so hopefully we'll hear from folks.
Great. Okay, well, Bob Wieckowski, thank you very much for being on Democratc Television.
Thank you, Steve, for having me.
Sure. Thanks for watching Democratc Television. Give us a call at 408-445-9500 or visit our website, www.sccdp.org. Help make a difference, like Senator Wieckowski. Thank you.